Hello everybody and welcome to the CTech Plus Hour on Chaos TV. Today is all about supporting our armed forces community, and we're going to be taking a look back at a recent event in Worcester hosted by the Armed Forces Covenant. The Covenant focuses on helping members of the armed forces community have the same access to government and commercial services and products as any other citizen. Now, the event, which took place at the Reserve Centre 214 Worcestershire Battery, home of the 104th Regiment Royal Artillery, was a celebration event to showcase business partnerships with Defence and for employers to sign the pledge and show their support for the armed forces community. Chaos TV were there to capture this event and speak to many of the guests about the importance of support for veterans. Now, before we hear from some of those guests who attended the event in Worcester, we're going to chat with Bobby Birdie from CTech Plus, who played a key role in the organisation of the event. Hello, Bobby.
Hiya.
Hello, you okay?
How are you? Very well, thank you, yeah.
Brilliant stuff. Now, Bobby, thank you so much for joining us here on Chaos TV today. We are going to hear shortly from the guests and employers who attended the Covenant event in Worcester. Can you start off by telling us a little bit about CTech's role in this and what it means to them?
Yeah, so CTech Plus is all about delivering positive impact to the benefit of individuals and communities. Our vision is about advancing fairer, safer and more prosperous communities. So it absolutely makes sense for us to support the Armed Forces Covenant initiative. We've held events recently in the Southwest, and this event in Worcester was just a great opportunity to bring together local employers, our local authority partners across Worcestershire. It's just a great way of connecting people. It's such a win-win in terms of the mutual benefits that employers and defence can gain from being part of this Armed Forces Covenant network.
Definitely. And I understand CTech Plus recently were the proud receivers of the Armed Forces Covenant Silver Award. Yeah. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, we were delighted to receive the Silver Award through the Employer Recognition Scheme. CTech have 3 internal steering groups, all working on different aspects of our support for the Armed Forces community. And what the Silver Award criteria did was give us a set of standards to work towards. So some of the requirements were about signing up to and working with the Career Transition Partnership and also Forces Families Jobs. We developed a peer-to-peer mentoring program for new ex-military colleagues coming into the business. And we now have a really active Armed Forces Yammer group. But the thing I'm most proud of for that was our HR policy for reservists. So now we offer 10 extra days paid leave for any staff who are also members of the reserve forces. And this is to account for the 2 weeks of additional training that they are required to take part in as part of their service. So the paid leave means that our staff aren't disadvantaged as a result of their service, which is exactly what the Armed Forces Covenant is all about. So it's really great to work for a company that recognises at senior level the benefit that we get from defence. And obviously it was great to receive that recognition in the form of a Silver Award.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds amazing. That's really great stuff. The Armed Forces Covenant as well, it is a voluntary pledge where employers can sign up to sort of demonstrate their support of the armed forces community. Is this pledge open to any type of business then?
Yeah, absolutely. It's open to all organisations. it's just a great way for employers to show support, for the people who've served our country. In terms of attracting and retaining talent, obviously it's a good way of employers to obviously show their support. Yeah.
Definitely. And sort of from an employer's point of view then, what would you say are some of the benefits?
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose from our point of view, from CTEC, we benefit from, the highly skilled ex-military personnel who obviously bring, unique experiences and capabilities into our business and into the workplace. It's a good way of obviously enhancing a business's reputation and profile. And in terms of the local employer networks that the Defence Relationship Management bring together, it's just a really good way of connecting with local like-minded businesses.
Brilliant. And sort of talking about the Worcester event in particular, were there any highlights that you would like to share with us?
Well, yeah, the food was amazing, first off. We had a local caterer who really, really delivered on the day. But the Deputy Lieutenant's speech was really, really touching. It brought home the importance of this agenda and why we're doing this. But for me, I think our colleague Graham Spanswick, he gave a talk about his role as a Cadet Force adult volunteer and the support that CTEC gives him to fulfil that role. So that was really inspiring. I really enjoyed that.
Brilliant. And we're just seeing some pictures going through here as well. Whether you're able to talk us through some of these, this looks great.
Yeah, so we had the signing of the covenant. We had 8 employers who signed up to the covenant. We had Moonrise Media here, Will Hopkins, signing alongside Deputy Lieutenant Major General Mark Armstrong, and also Rob from the senior military representative from the RAF. It was really, really nice to have that employer support as well, and hopefully the employers who signed on the day got a lot from it as well.
Definitely. Like you said at the start of this interview, it's sort of win-win for everyone, isn't it? It sounds like it was these events, that's what they're there for.
Yeah, absolutely. From a staff wellbeing point of view as well, to sort of look after sort of staff, which is obviously what a lot of what CTEC is all about as well. It makes sense to look after our staff who are part of the armed forces community.
Yeah. Bobby, brilliant stuff. Thank you so much for joining us today and for all the work that you guys get up to.
Well, thank you for filming on the day as well, and for taking the time. The staff at Chaos were absolutely amazing. So thank you for all your work.
Oh, brilliant. Bobby, take care. Thank you. Now, as we said, Chaos TV were able to capture this event on behalf of CTEC Plus, and they were able to catch up with some of the guests on the day. And to start us off, we have 2 very distinguished members of the forces who explain the importance of employers signing up to the Covenant. Let's take a look.
Joining me on the sofa now is Mark and Rob. Thank you for joining me today. Now, like I say to you, I didn't want to get them wrong, so if you could please give me your titles, that'd be wonderful.
So I'm Major General Mark Armstrong. I'm a Deputy Lieutenant in the County of Worcestershire.
I'm Wing Commander Rob Williams. I'm the Air Regional Employment Engagement Officer for the West Midlands.
And this is why I didn't try to say them. So thank you both for joining me today. Obviously, we're here to celebrate the signing of the Armed Forces Covenant with new employers here in the area, so it's wonderful to see. Firstly, I want to know your thoughts on the Covenant, why it's so important that employers sign up to it, why it's so important to those in the Armed Forces community that employers sign up for it.
I think there's a requirement for the members of the armed forces who are currently serving and those who have recently retired from the service as veterans to understand what the Covenant is all about. So some education from our point. And secondly, from an employer's perspective, is how do we go outside and ensure that we recognise the importance of what the Covenant stands for in terms of supporting our veterans, their families, the spouses thereof, Cadet Forces adult volunteers, and any other aspects that will bring benefits, mutual benefits to the employer and the veteran.
Yeah, I think highlighting there the mutual benefits side of it. If you've got stuff to add there, Mark.
Yeah, I would add that the Armed Forces Covenant isn't about giving an advantage to service personnel serving or who has left, but just to make sure that they're not disadvantaged, particularly around families. The services medical, for example, whilst I was serving, they would give me dental treatment. But if you imagine how difficult it is sometimes to actually get an NHS dentist, if you and your family are moving around every 2 years, just as you get towards the list of getting onto an NHS dentist, you're moving again. So it's just about making sure that there's no disadvantage to army life. And we only need to look in recent times how much the military is being used, not just abroad, not just the Iraqs and the Afghanistans, and at the moment we've got troops in the Baltic region, but also how they're being used at home at the moment. Service men and women put a huge amount into the community, and this is just about the community recognising what they're doing and making sure that they're not disadvantaged as a result.
This is, I think you've touched on that beautifully there. That it's not just benefits from the employer side, and of course there are, but it's also that support locally in that community, like things, dentists, like you say, schools, for example, all of these sorts of things that aren't thought about quite so often for anybody that's not been in the armed forces community and or indeed come out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. All of those things. And then also about promoting service leavers and the amazing skills that they have. And you might look at somebody who's been in the infantry or in the Air Force, has been in the RAF regiment, and think, what are their skills? But actually their leadership skills, their ability to cope with difficult situations in really difficult and trying conditions, that's what makes them really special and makes them, my opinion, of course I would be biased, but the best armed forces in the world. And it's that training that we give to all our servicemen and women. And they can take that out. And as somebody now working in industry, I certainly look towards people leaving the military because I know I get people who are committed. If they say they'll do something, they will do it. So they're reliable, and they're actually very grateful for the chances that industry give them. I don't know, Rob, from your perspective.
Thanks, sir. I think from my perspective, it's about having individuals who can assimilate information extremely quickly and give a solution to a problem or a range of problems. And from my perspective also, it's not about the rank or the label the individual has. It's the fact they've been developed from a very young age all the way through to leaving the service. And that's something you just don't throw away. I think you should invest in it and continue to build on it also.
These are all positive attributes, as we've heard there, and I think what's very important is that they're all transferable. And this, what can sometimes be forgotten about, is that they are indeed transferable, both into workplace and into life skills as well.
Very much so. If I use a Royal Air Force example, we've got men and women working on aircraft on different platforms, say the Voyager A330. The qualifications they need to operate on that is no different to the qualification needed in industry. So a service leaver could actually go and work with an airline without having to worry about the qualifications. Could we provide that anyway? So the assumption must not be made that because the service leaver is a service person, that they can't do the job out in industry. They can. They just need to be given the opportunity of an interview. And once that person is met, I'm sure most employers will employ them.
And as we've seen today, obviously, we've had 7 new businesses and employers join for the Covenant. What do you say, why would you say it's so important that employers and businesses are signing up to the Armed Forces Covenant to hold themselves accountable, to provide this support, or indeed this to make sure they're not disadvantaged?
I think for the employers of today are in a position where they can actually own and manage their HR policies and procedures. They recognise the contribution that's been provided by their workforce. And also when you blend that into the young kids of the future, the young next generation, the Cadet Force Adult Volunteer is really crucial to some of that. But also, if a reservist needs 2 weeks off to be trained or refreshed, or indeed to be competent, and they've got the assurance of knowing they'll be paid annual leave for that, it's an added incentive. That being said, some of our reservists will go anyway, unpaid. But it's about how do you attract the right individuals for a business, the right individuals for the reserve community, and the right individuals who are ex-service personnel who want to continue to contribute to both sides of the argument, that being the employer and the defence.
Yeah, and Rob picks up the third part there. So we've talked about the service personnel leaving, we've talked about their families, and then it's the reserve aspect. Whether you're a regular reservist, so somebody's come out of the regular forces and then you do your time as a reservist, or you're a voluntary reservist, or indeed a voluntary instructor. And this country runs on volunteers, and the volunteers who run the Army Cadets, the Air Cadets, the Sea Cadets, the Combined Cadet Force, they give up huge amounts of their own time to give kids the opportunity and that's hugely welcome. It puts discipline into children. It's not about recruiting them into the armed forces. It's actually about just giving them life skills as youngsters. And those who are actually reservists, and as Rob has mentioned, needing time for their annual camp and to do their skills, these are people who also give up a lot of their own time. So it's not as if they're not prepared to make that commitment, because they absolutely are. And then the Army, the Navy, the Air Force invest in them with training, which again they bring back into the workplace. So hugely beneficial to any employer to have reservists.
Mark, Rob, thank you both for joining me here today for a chat. It's been wonderful. It's been a great day, and like I say, it's great to see more employers signing up. I can only hope we're heading in that direction, and we continue that momentum. Thank you both for joining me.
Thank you.
With me now is Phil Sinclair from the Ministry of Defence, here to tell us more about the Armed Forces Covenant. Thank you for joining me today, Phil.
Thank you.
You've had a busy day out there today. It's been a success. I see you've had 7 more employers sign up this morning.
Yes, indeed, which brings the total in the region this year to something like 149 so far.
That's wonderful.
So, which is yes, it's a nice number.
And you're continuing that
We're
momentum.
continuing that momentum. The projection is going north.
Excellent.
And has been doing for the last couple of years, which is excellent news, because the Armed Forces Covenant, as you've already heard from previous interviews, is incredibly important, and of incredible benefit not only to the Armed Forces community that it supports, but the businesses that lend their support to it.
It is real, that sort of mutual symbiotic
Absolutely.
benefit there. Benefit sounds almost wrong to say. It's like you say, it's putting everybody on that level playing field almost.
Yeah, the Covenant is very much about removing barriers, essentially. There are various aspects to the Armed Forces Covenant. The aspect that I deal with almost exclusively is very much with business, and therefore focuses more on the employment side of the covenant, and provision of goods and services, and identifying those barriers to accessibility, whether that be employment, whether that be the goods and services that they offer.
I think having that open dialogue between employers and the Armed Forces community is incredibly valuable to have.
Oh, absolutely. The partnering with defence is one of our watchwords, and it really is a partnership. The Ministry of Defence are very aware of how important the business community are to them as a strategic partner. I mean, if you consider that some 30 to 35% of armed forces capability is made up of reserves, then you can begin to appreciate just how important employers are as a strategic partner to defence, and therefore it is about partnering.
And I think anybody from the Armed Forces community, whether they're still serving or volunteering, in fact, they've a wealth of transferable skills here, life skills, work skills, all are applicable in the workforce.
Absolutely, both hard skills and soft skills. We talk about the soft skills probably more than the hard skills, but as you've heard earlier from a previous interview, people work on aircraft frames and platforms. The qualifications that they gain as a result of that are second to none, and they are directly transferable into business, and that's just aviation. Between the Royal Navy, the Army and the Air Force, we probably cover every single sector of business in one form or another, in terms of both training and qualifications, employability, what we call employment skills. So, the Armed Forces personnel have that wealth of skill and experience that they can bring into business.
This is it. There's, like as you say, there's such a plethora of industry within the Armed Forces.
Absolutely.
If you like, that some, there will be somebody from the Armed Forces that's applicable to most roles in Civvy Street, as you like.
Absolutely, and part of my role is to talk to businesses to say, look, take away the perceptions. Quite often members of the armed forces will not necessarily complete an application form particularly well or have a particularly good CV. And why not? Because they have had no real need for doing so, because they've been essentially employed within the forces, and therefore don't go through the same sort of job interviews and job hunting that a normal member of society might otherwise do. So they may not, on the face of it, be the right person for the role, but actually, if you were to interview them, it would become very apparent very quickly that, well, actually, this individual probably does have the level of experience, qualification and skill needed for the role.
We always say sort of that these are people, not paper, and I think this couldn't be more applicable in that sense, and it's about meeting these people. Yeah. Phil, thank you for taking the time to talk with me today, and congratulations on the day, and like I say, I really do hope you continue that forward momentum and meet those goals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very kind of you. Thank you very much.
Tonight we're in HMS Cambria and we're here to celebrate the Employee Recognition Scheme Gold Award recipients from across 3 regions, Wales, Wessex and the West Midlands. In presenting the awards to the 38 recipients, we've got a great evening of military activity. So we've got the band of the Royal Marines from Plymouth who will provide a beating of retreat. And then we're very fortunate to have the Chief of Defence People, Lieutenant General James Swift, to thank the recipients for all their efforts and just to let them know how much we value the work they do for the defence community across the UK.
It's quite a journey to get to this stage, to be Gold Award winners. But when you get to this exalted level, you're not just giving job opportunities to people, but you are advocates for defence. Thank you very much for what you've already done to get here. Congratulations on being Gold Award winners. You really matter to the Ministry of Defence. We're incredibly grateful for what you do, and tonight is just a little way of us showing that. So thank you all very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen.
We're really thrilled to have been awarded gold. See everyone in their uniforms, and this is one of the first in-person events that I've been to, so it's been fantastic to see people in real life rather than on a tiny Zoom screen.
Well, we've been so busy throughout the whole COVID. The last 2 years have been very difficult for companies, and hearing the other experiences for other people and what they've gone through has been really, really nice. So for us tonight, it's been fantastic.
In front of all these people here, absolutely inspiring to see some multinational companies and me as a little micro company in the UK. I just feel inspired and so lucky to have worked hard to get here.
Brilliant to be here with other employers, all with a shared commitment to veterans and their families, and I just think that that's so important, that employers are recognised for what they do for the veteran community.
We're humbled, we're privileged, we can't believe that we've actually achieved this award. This is exactly what the embodiment of community is. It's about making sure that our service people are looked after, that we make sure that we consider them in our recruitment processes, but also our students in our academies across the nation are aware of what it is that the services do for us.
With me now is Anne from WorkPays, who's been here today to sign the Armed Forces Covenant. Thanks for coming in today, and thanks for signing up to the Covenant as well.
Thank you. Thanks for having us here. It's been great. We decided to join because we already have a colleague within our business who is a volunteer cadet in the Armed Forces. We've supported him through that, and through him we learnt a lot more about it. So that's one of the reasons we're here today.
I'm thrilled you said that. I want to find out more. What sort of support have you given? Because I think this is what's really important, is that employers understand.
We've heard from colleagues today, haven't we, in the Armed Forces are already doing this, but the guy in particular, Alex, he went off on a sortie somewhere, whatever they call it. But he went off this year. We gave him a week out of the business, and he was able to go and do some of the stuff that we've heard about today. So he comes back, and he's obviously learnt a lot of skills whilst he's been away, and we look forward to supporting him in the business through that.
And a lot of the times, these are transferable skills, aren't they? They're life skills, they're work skills.
They are indeed, and that's what attracts us to that, because at WorkPays, that is what we do. We work to help people get into employment. So one of the things that we do mostly is look at people when they sit in front of us and want a job. We look at what their transferable skills are in natural life anyway. And when someone comes and sits in front of us who may be in the armed forces, they bring so much more, which people don't understand. So not only are we working with other employers in order to place people into employment, we can also sell, if you like, the benefits of the person sitting in front of us who's been in the armed forces as well, and maybe even encourage them to come and join.
It's that real lived experience of
Yes.
these skills, isn't it, that
Yes,
can
it
be
is.
applied, and that are so appealing to employers as well. And I think we forget that a lot of these things that employers are looking for
Yeah.
can be found within the armed forces community.
Absolutely. Their management skills, exactly what we've heard today about they break things down into bite-sized proportions and all of those things. The management, they tend to progress really quickly through the ranks as well. We've noticed if they come in at the base level, they soon become team leaders, and we were always looking at these shining stars coming through.
There's that natural
because
progression.
of what they've got as a natural skill that they've learnt in the army or armed forces.
So, as speaking as an employer now, what would you say the benefits of signing up to the covenant are? It's sort of that putting my hand up and saying I will.
I think even though I thought I knew most about it, even being here today, you don't realise the extent of what the opportunities are. Even the recruitment side of it, and signing up to the recruitment side, looking who's coming out of the army, that they look in 2 years before they even come out, and it's all of that is preparation. So if we're ahead of the game and know that, then we can also prepare and look to employers that we are working with in particular who maybe want to take these people as they come through the ranks.
I think it's wonderful, and it sounds like it's all going the right direction as well, which is what we like to hear.
Yeah, we're really proud to have done what we've done today, and we'd definitely encourage other people to do so.
Brilliant, that's exactly what we like to hear as well. Thanks for joining me today, and it's been lovely speaking with you. Hi, with me now are Pete and Alex from Patman, and they have today signed the Armed Forces Covenant, so we're going to hear more about that from them now. Thanks for joining me, chaps.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So, what have you previously come to hear from the Armed Forces Covenant? What's made you come today to sign up?
So we came to the event before Christmas, didn't get a chance to sign. We liked what they was all about, so we decided to come today and sign the covenant. We're quite a small company, really, in the scheme of things, but we do quite a lot for the community as well, so we like to give back any area we can, and this is one area we feel quite strongly about and we want to give back.
Yeah, pretty much just reiterate what Pete said on that. We see this as our way of giving back to the community. We try to do as much as we can, and to hear the disadvantage that people in the armed forces have is just completely unfair and shouldn't be a thing. And when we come to the Covenant last time, we didn't even realise it was such a big thing until people started telling us about what was going on.
Yeah, like you say, it really can be one of those things that unless you're told, you don't always know. You're not aware of what's going on in these other communities like that, and it's really important to take note of that. So I think, like you say, you're taking that first step in signing up and agreeing, yes, we are going to go forward with this.
Yeah, and it's about kind of getting it out to people to know that the Covenant is out there as well. Because until recently, when we heard about it on the Chamber of Commerce, we didn't know it was a thing. So the more publicity they can get, the better for everyone involved, that it can help expand.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously you would say to any employer thinking of doing it, it's a no-brainer, really. You know, this is part of package of being an employer, is this inclusivity employment?
Well, yeah, I mean, it helps with everyone's diversity, and it helps your local community. These people are in your community, and they're struggling, so there's no reason for them to struggle. The qualities that they can bring to your business is what every business owner is looking for. So they have the skills already there. It just makes business sense as well.
And I think these are real transferable skills here. So do you actively, obviously, what would you say the benefits of employing somebody from the armed forces community would be, for example?
I mean, I would imagine the work ethic is going to be a lot more. So we struggle to find people who have that strong work ethic, finding a problem and solving it. It's forgotten art nowadays of solving problems, whereas the armed forces have come across problems all the time. So it's just solving problems and moving forward.
In our industry as well, we built our business on them sort of standards. So we built it. We're very time efficient. We like to do things properly to the book. So all of this is what we transfer to our lads anyway. So having someone who's already familiar with that is a big starting point for where we'd like to hire people, really, wouldn't it?
Chaps, thank you for joining me today. It's great to see, and congratulations for signing up for the Covenant as well. This is it. That's that, like you said, that's that first step, isn't it? And it's forward now from there. So thanks for coming today, and
Lovely.
thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hi, with me now is Will from Moonrise Media, who's been with us today signing the Armed Forces Covenant. Thanks for joining me, Will.
Hi, thanks. Pleasure.
So, how did you find yourself here? How did you come to hear about the Covenant? What made you come today to join?
I was at a previous event where Phil was talking about the Armed Forces Covenant, and it just struck a real chord with me because since I moved to Hereford some 15 years or so ago, it's more than that now, it's nearly 20 years ago, I've got to know quite a few people who are in the army and also family members who've got people serving. And I've done a little bit of fundraising for them. But being in the forces was something that I always wanted to do, and it was only really, I found out too late to join the reserves because of my age. And so this is something I can do. I'm starting a filmmaking company that tells stories, and so I'm very committed to trying to tell some of the stories of people who are benefiting from the AFC.
Yeah, and these are individuals, and like you say, they've all got stories in that sense as well. So this is your way of now supporting the armed forces in the means you can.
If I can raise awareness of it, as other people have said when I'm asking them about it, a lot of people have never heard about it. So if I can do what I can to raise awareness of this, and then that's great.
And I think awareness is really important there. It's that platform and it's that open dialogue between both employers and the armed forces community, isn't it? It's what support's available,
Yes.
but it's also that diversity, the inclusivity. It's all good. This is the thing, and this is what I think it's important that employers know.
Yes, and also especially on the cadet side of things, because there's so much funding has gone out of youth services across the country. And cadet forces is one of the things that can bring a very positive impact to kids, even if they don't go on to actually join the forces, although obviously many of them will. That gives them a great start in life, and I think that's missing.
On that right path like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cool. It's like I say, it really is about the benefits, and that's why you find yourself here today doing this, isn't it?
Yes, of course.
That's what we like to hear. Well, thank you for joining me. It's great talking to you.
Okay.
I look forward to hearing more about it, and congratulations on signing up today.
Yeah, I felt very humbled doing so.
That's what we like to hear.
Yeah.
Much the same.
All right. Thank you.
Hello, I'm here with Dawn from the Chamber of Commerce now, and we're here in Worcester talking about the Armed Forces Covenant celebration. Thanks for coming on with us today, Dawn.
You're very welcome.
So tell me a bit, what area does the Chamber cover that you're from?
Right, we cover the Herefordshire and Worcestershire area, so we work with businesses across the two counties.
Fabulous. So that's plenty going on in those two, I imagine, as well. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So you've taken on the Armed Forces Covenant and you've signed that.
We have.
When did you do this?
We did that actually about 4 years ago.
Wow.
We're actually just approaching hopefully our gold accreditation, having worked through the levels. So
what impact, obviously 4 years, that's quite a period that you've been a part of this, then with employers still joining to this day, what impact would you say you've noticed?
on the Chamber or in the community?
Both.
Both, okay. Certainly from the Chamber's point of view, it's opened out our knowledge and awareness of a community that we had sort of very little knowledge of originally. And when we signed the Covenant, obviously that reinforced our commitment to working with communities within Herefordshire and Worcestershire. And it just made us look at our own internal policies, as to what we were doing to support, in terms of flexible working policies, what we were doing to support members of the armed forces community, whether they were reservists or cadets or veterans. And it's made us more aware of the good work that's done, and we just felt we needed to be part of that. Not that we had to, but we wanted to be part of that. And raise awareness of the armed forces community and the Covenant to all our members, across the two counties, which hopefully we have done over the 4 years.
I think awareness is really important to focus on there, because there's all this great work being done, and a lot of employers and businesses are already doing a lot of these things.
Yes.
However, it's signing that covenant, it's an agreement to, yes, we are dedicated to providing this and this support as well going forward.
Yes, and I think it can have a snowball effect. The more businesses members that come on board, the more the awareness and the information is circulated amongst the local communities. And other businesses have come forward and said, well, what's it all about? Can you tell us more? And we're able to do that. And
this is it. It's that snowball effect, like you say, isn't it? And it grows.
Yes,
what would you say if you were talking to an employer about joining or signing up to the covenant? What would you say the benefits are of it?
I think it is being part of that community. It's understanding what support the Armed Forces community as a whole can give to people in the private sector, and help employers understand perhaps the obligations and the duties that they may have, and what they can put in place in terms of additional flexible working policies which specifically help members of the armed forces. So that might be additional leave for training, for example. It's how they're looked after in the event of a mobilisation. So it just really makes businesses perhaps understand how they can further help that category of employees, which they might not have been doing before.
Really important to have that shared dialect between both the employers and those from the armed forces community as well. It's really important to have that open discussion to say what support is needed, but also what support is available.
Exactly. And that's something that certainly for ourselves, we did look internally at what we were doing, and actually that was very little 4 years ago, because it was an area I hadn't really had much knowledge of. And since then, I really do understand, what is out there. We can implement our own policies now to help members of the armed forces, and obviously publicise that to other businesses, and hopefully lead by example.
That's what we're here to do today, isn't it? Thank you very much for chatting with me today, Dawn.
You're very welcome.
And it's always wonderful to speak to somebody from the chamber there, so thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Here I am, back on the sofa with my next guest. Joining me now is Graham, who is with the...
I'm with Herefordshire and Worcestershire Army Cadet Force.
Fabulous. So we're going to hear more about that with you now. Tell me, what's your role with the Army Cadet Force then?
So my role within the Army Cadet Force is I'm what we call a detachment commander, and ultimately what that boils down to is that I am responsible for overseeing the mentoring, guidance and development of young people between the ages of 12 and 18, generally between sort of 30 and 35 of them a night. But in addition to that, I have a team of staff that I'm also responsible for as well.
So it's quite a large catchment there, really, isn't it, in the area, especially, I imagine. So you say 30 to 35 a night, you say?
Yeah, so we only parade once a week on a Monday, but they're generally sort of 30 to 35. From all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of family situations, and all with very different learning styles. So it can be quite complex to ensure that the training that we are delivering is appropriate to everybody's learning styles and needs. But it's a challenge that I thoroughly enjoy.
Yeah, like you say, it is a challenge, and everybody does learn differently. What are some of the things you might be getting up to in one of these evenings then?
So we have a range of activities that we have to complete as part of our training syllabus, but those activities generally range from things such as first aid to skill at arms, where we will teach the young people how to use various different weapon systems. We may be teaching them drill. We do community engagement, where we talk about various emergency services and various ways that the cadets themselves can put things back into their community.
Really valuable. These are life lessons and life skills as well, really, aren't they? They can be applied anywhere throughout. So you're a volunteer then?
Yes, I am. I've been volunteering now for about 6.5 years. Outside of my work life, which obviously takes up quite a bit of my time, I've got 3 daughters as well that are quite active. So it's trying to find that very delicate work-life balance to be able to put as much as I can into the cadet forces. But I'm very lucky that I've got a very understanding partner.
So you mentioned work there. What is it you do for work then, if you don't mind me asking?
So I'm a employability trainer for CTEC. Essentially what that means is that I'm responsible for the development and upskilling of our participants. In various ways, that could be the delivery of various workshops to help them improve their employability skills. It could be one-to-one sessions, helping somebody work on a CV, helping them prepare for an interview, or just basically helping them build their confidence so that they're ready to get themselves back into sustainable employment.
How do you find that balance with with the work life and also the Army Cadets? How does your employer sort of support that?
So I'm very, very lucky. CTEC is one of the most supportive employers that I've worked for whilst I've been a Cadet Force adult volunteer. Essentially, they will provide me with additional paid leave. They give me volunteering days. On a weekend when I may be attending a camp or a course, they're flexible in terms of they may let me leave early. I think the main one is if it's a weekend camp, they're very understanding on the Monday when I get back and we're exhausted. But yeah, very, very supportive.
It's really good to have that sort of open dialogue with the employer like that, isn't it? And be on that level playing field with them where you can openly, say these things, and they're also on the other side supporting it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been very open with CTEC since I was first employed with them in terms of my responsibilities and my commitments to the cadet forces. But as they're so very eager to support the armed forces community that actually there's very little in the way of conflicts, which is really nice.
So we're here today, obviously, to talk more about the Armed Forces Covenant, aren't we? Why do you think it's so important that employers, take notice of this and sign up to the Covenant?
So I think with the Covenant, it's very important. I'm ex-regular Army myself, and I know from personal experience how potentially some employers are not as supportive of the armed forces community as others, and this can be demonstrated in a number of ways in terms of potential progression or even recruitment in itself. There is approximately 2.4 million veterans within the UK with a huge range of transferable skills, and I think it's really important that we make this as obvious as we can to potential employers to help support these veterans that may have given so much for the country.
Yeah, and absolutely, like you say, these are transferable skills and they can be really, really useful in work situations as well, and life skills at that. Graham, thank you very much for joining me for a chat today. It's been great to hear more from you, and I hope you keep up the balance of 3 daughters, work life, and the volunteering as well, because you're doing a great job so far, I can tell that.
That's brilliant, thank you for having me.
All Pro, and he's here today at the Armed Forces Covenant Employer Celebration, and we're going to find out more from Jack now, indeed, about his business and the benefits of joining the Armed Forces Covenant. Thanks for coming today, Jack.
No, happy to be here.
Great. So tell me a bit about the business. I know you've previously come from service as well, so far away.
So I'm a service leaver. I left the Royal Marine Commandos in January last year, served 12 years. Reasons for leaving, sort of quite deep, shall we say. Probably not enough sort of time to go in today, but in the grand scheme of things, how to put this kind of politely, I lost an emotional connection to it. Let's put it that way. The novelty wore off. Now work for a really lovely company, which is Worcester-based, called Allpro. That's Oscar Lima Papa Romeo Oscar.
Like it.
Yep, transferable skill, phonetic alphabet. We specialise in driveway awnings, tents and canvas designed for the likes of the VW transporters that have been converted into camper vans, motorhomes and caravans, and other associated accessories for the leisure industry.
Cool. So this is brilliant, your lived experience in that sense. What sort of transferable skills do you think you've sort of ascertained to bring to the business,
Yeah, we talked about down there, like aircraft engineers, but, it goes back, strip it right back to basic things. You'll get, lads leaving the infantry battalions who have left school with no GCSEs and they think to themselves, right, I've been a sniper for 10 years. I've carried a sniper rifle around for 10 years. What the hell can I give to the likes of BAE Systems? But it just, again, back down to those Billy basic week one, day one skills like being able to have a shave for an interview, iron your clothes, polish your shoes, have your name tag the right way up. All these little things that we actually forget when when you come through the door and you sit down and an employer looks at you and they get that first kind of impressions. It doesn't matter whether you might be the best person in the world at fixing Land Rovers. If you can't brush your teeth and iron your clothes, that's you out the door. And it's little things like that a lot of employers still today in 21st century look for.
Absolutely, it is those very core mechanics, isn't it? In that sense, that make us, like we said, going into work and things like this, and going from service into work. It's those skills that regular people you might not think so much about. However, these are hard-earned skills a lot of the time that have been put through the test and rigorously at that.
Yeah, they are. When I first joined Allpro, I was putting sellotape on. I was picking and packing from the shelves. And I thought, right, how can I shine here? Because I want to move up. I want to get out of the warehouse. And, just an attention to detail, making sure that, a customer's going to receive a £500 awning. I don't want it to look like it's been thrown around at Heathrow Airport.
Yeah.
So it's little things like that. And then, once you then move into the office, it's a whole different ball game. The warehouse for me was a very easy environment because it was kind of sort of roughy, tufty, kind of physical. Before I worked for Allpro, I used to work for a forestry firm on chainsaws, and that was the same. It was like, treat the chainsaw like a weapon system. There's a dangerous end, there's a safe end, and there's an end that you stand at. So, yeah.
And it's knowing it in and out as well, isn't it? It's equipment, it's loyalty, it's determination, it's drive, these things. And like you say, in the factory, you can apply certain skills in one way, and then, like you say, you work your way up and you might find yourself in an office. You're using other skills that you've previously learned throughout service, then in a different environment.
Yeah, and definitely I found the office environment actually more challenging than patrolling the streets in Afghanistan.
It's a complete polarised environment, really, isn't it? From what you've gone, serving to an office space, it is a completely different environment, and it's about applying yourself in that way. So you're on the covenant, Allpro are on the covenant. What would you say, obviously, to employers thinking of doing so?
I would say I think what it does is you've got to think about it from my point of view. As soon as I heard that my employee had signed the covenant, it made me feel instantly warm. It made me feel like, okay, these guys might not necessarily have any connection to the military, the military is, apart from Call of Duty and films, it is a alien world.
Yeah.
It's behind barbed wire and cameras and dogs. But as soon as I saw that flash up on his computer, I thought, I actually trust you a bit more, and I feel like you've attended these events and you've actually invested in me arriving here. Because it is nervous when you leave the military. You might have served in the bloody special forces, but walking it to a civilian employer is, sometimes you get flustered, you don't know where to begin, you don't know how to translate your career over to them. But as soon as you see that covenant sign, you just feel like, okay, these guys are on side.
That's it. I was about to say, as soon as you see that sticker in the window, it's right, they're on my team here. This is good. This is all I need. I'm going to start on that level playing field. I'm not at a disadvantage at all. And I think that's what it's about.
That's it. Yeah, no, that's it. It's not a disadvantage. It is an advantage. It is giving you it's giving you a window of opportunity. It's letting you know, we understand where you're coming from. We understand that, you might need a bit more time to explain yourself. And it just makes you feel like that there's a bridge that leads into that barbed, wired, camered society, which we always think is... Because it's going to sound mental. When you're in the military, especially the Marines, we called this world the outside world. Outside camp was the outside world, behind the wire, over the wire. You guys, civvies.
Yeah.
Much worse language. And... there is a very them and us, but seeing that logo is like, okay.
It's building that bridge, like you say. It is connecting those two worlds in a way. And it's that shared dialogue, which I think is really important. It goes both ways then as well. It's not just about what support's available, but you guys can say, this is the support we need. And without that dialogue, you don't go anywhere. So I think that's what's really important here.
No, you're right, and I feel like I am a really good candidate for this role at Allpro, purely because I am enthusiastic about actually giving back to service leavers, allowing them to benefit, and I think it's not opening employees' eyes, but I think my employees knew a little bit about the military, but they didn't really understand, I think, some of the struggles which service leavers like myself may have been facing quietly keeping to themselves.
No, this is really important. Jack, thank you for joining me today. It's great. Like I said, this is a really important discussion that you're having here, and it's great that you're so open and honest about it as well, because I think that's what's going to lead the way and lead the charge and make these changes as well. So absolutely keep that up. You're doing great things.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. Hi, welcome. I'm here with Phil, who's an Army reservist, and we're going to be asking some questions, finding out more about what it is he gets up to. Thanks for joining me today, Phil.
No problem, thank you.
So, I came here today, and I've literally asked somebody, I said, what is a reservist? You see it everywhere. Can you tell me in your own words, as an Army reservist, what it is you get up to?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Army Reserve does essentially everything that the regular army does, but on a reserve basis. So we, for lack of a better phrase, we fill the gaps if there is a requirement where a unit isn't quite the strength, and we support the regular army in any which way they need supporting.
So it could be anything, and you don't quite know what you're going to have put on your plate, really.
Exactly right. Yeah. So we during the pandemic, we had a lot of calls for guys to go out with assistance with the response to that. We've also had guys do operational tours in places like Iraq and Afghanistan. So it really can be anything from the civil assistance right the way through to combat operations.
That's, like you say, you don't know quite what it is you're going to get. So you've said to me today that you've come from work, or you're going to work. What do you do for work then?
So I work for Emergent Bank. I work for Close Brothers Group, and I specialise in asset finance for the manufacturing sector. So I know, which is completely different to what we do, but that's sometimes that's the point, really. The Army Reserve offers me a detachment from the corporate civilian world, which is really, really positive. But also I have my civilian job, which is hugely supportive of what I do within the Army Reserve.
I've never thought about it as the Army Reserve just sort of supporting you in that other sense. You sort of assume it's going to be your civil job as the support for that other life, isn't it? But I can see how it can work both ways there.
Absolutely, yeah. The training that you get from the Army Reserve actually benefits civilian employers more than what they may think. I think civilian employers tend to assume that within the military it's lots of shouting, lots of pointing, you're doing it this way. That it has completely changed now. So the training that I get within the unit, within the regiment, or within the wider army, assists me with my civilian role in regards to whether it be just mindset, whether it be motivation, or just the ability to break a task down into components and bite-sized chunks.
And deal with it in more manageable fashion
Exactly
like that.
right,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. So we're here today, obviously celebrating employers joining the Armed Forces Covenant, things like this. What do you know about the Covenant? What do you think the benefits of it are?
I think the Armed Forces Covenant is really, really important. I think it's that really vital link between employers and potential servicemen and women who are going to come in and join the Army Reserve. I think sometimes the assumption of what the Army Reserve is puts employers off. Allowing their staff members to join. And I think the Armed Forces Covenant does a really good job in actually dispelling those myths, letting them know what the individual is going to be getting up to, but also what the benefits are for the employers themselves.
It's that two-way dialogue, isn't it? And I think that's what's really important to open up. It's the employer and the Armed Forces community. It's what support's available, but what also support's needed as well, because you might not know.
Absolutely. I think one of the prime examples is Opbridge, which was when Her Majesty the Queen passed away. The regiment that we did were part of the Royal Gun Salutes down at Cardiff Castle. On the Thursday, I was at the NEC doing an exhibition with work, and I saw a notification came on my phone. 24 hours later, I was in my Blues uniform on the gun in Cardiff Castle, firing off. So you're right, it can move quite quickly. It is that two-way dialogue, but I think with that particular experience, my employer said, look, this is once in a lifetime, absolutely. Do you mind if we put it in the newsletter? So of course, yeah, absolutely.
Not going to happen again, something like that, touch wood.
Well, not anytime soon.
Not anytime
soon, I have to say, because it was an absolutely huge undertaking for the regiment and the army as a whole. So, we don't like to see things like that happen too often.
No, fingers crossed. Well, Phil, thanks for joining me today. It's been great to hear from you today, and hope you do indeed get that bacon roll later on.
Perfect. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Brilliant stuff there. Thank you to Henry and all the amazing guests and businesses for sharing their stories there. It is great to see the support there from employers for our Armed Forces community. If you would like to know more information on the Armed Forces Covenant, you can go to their website at armedforcescovenant.gov.uk. CTEC Plus are also committed to supporting the Armed Forces community with their Armed Forces Pilot Scheme, which supports veterans embark on their journey into mainstream life. Now, unfortunately, that is all we have time for this week. If you would like to catch up on anything you have seen today, remember you can re-watch all of CTEC Plus's content on their YouTube channel. All you need to do is search CTEC Plus or Plus on YouTube, and don't forget to subscribe whilst you're there as well. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you again very soon. Goodbye.